Now it's 47 days since the Israeli military launched a ground offensive in Lebanon. Israeli troops have killed more than 2,000 people in the process and destroyed thousands of buildings and homes. The fighting and bombing has displaced an estimated 1.2 million people, 400,000 of them children. These are live pictures of some of the latest attacks on Beirut's southern suburbs. Well, Israeli forces have carried out at least 5 airstrikes in Lebanon's capital in the past few hours alone. A reminder, these are some of the latest pictures of some of those attacks in the southern suburbs of the Lebanese capital. It's the 5th day of Israel's bombardment of the city. The Ministry of Health says Israeli attacks have killed 59 people and wounded 182 across the country in the past 24 hours alone. Let's speak to Ori Goldberg, who's an Israeli political commentator. He joins us from Tel Aviv. Ori, welcome back to Al Jazeera. So, look, I want to talk about what's happening in Lebanon in just a second, but I also want to take in some of the latest developments regarding Israeli operations in the Syrian capital, Damascus. How should we understand Israel's recent attacks there on Damascus within the context of Israel's objectives in the region as a whole?
As an act of desperation, Israel's actions in Damascus are an attempt to target Palestinian Islamic Jihad, which is supposedly the rival of Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Of course, after what Israel has made of the Gaza Strip, that is no longer relevant. But Israel insists on maintaining the fiction that the political reality that preceded this year of destruction and genocide still holds, and it is going after Palestinian Islamic Jihad, perhaps in an attempt to negotiate a different hostage deal. This is classic Israeli operations, not strategy, an attempt to divide and conquer even when there's nobody left to divide and conquer.
Do we expect, as a result, Israel to now be setting its sights on other targets within Syria or indeed elsewhere?
Targets are infinite. That is Israel's main and only war philosophy. That's all we do. We establish targets through intelligence and then we bomb them. But targets don't necessarily add up to a coherent effort. All Israeli bombings are attempts to go after particular tactical contexts without any kind of unifying strategy. The only thing Israel wants at the end of the day, with regard to Lebanon and with regard to Syria, is formal permission to exercise full sole exclusive discretion. Israel wants to shoot, kill, destroy whoever it wants, whenever it wants, wherever it wants. To do that, Israel is demonstrating its strength in the sense of, if you don't let us do that, we'll do that anyway. Any attempt to see any kind of real strategy or some kind of actual end game here, I think, is capricious at best.
Focusing on what's been happening in Lebanon, I understand Iran has reportedly said it will back any decision taken by Lebanon, i.e. Hezbollah, in talks to secure a ceasefire with Israel. How is Israel reading all that?
Well, remember that it was very important for Israel a year ago to establish that the Hamas attack was part of an ongoing, organized, orchestrated Iranian effort to go after Israel from several fronts simultaneously. This turned out not to be the case, and I think Iran's statement demonstrates that. Iran recognizes that Hezbollah is ultimately a Lebanese organization, that its livelihood and Iran's potential influence on it depend on the existence of a Lebanese state. Israel is doing what it has always done in these cases and is simply ignoring developments on the ground. Israel wants what it wants. It doesn't want negotiations. It doesn't want to bring the Iranians into it, certainly not as a responsible, respected partner for negotiations. Israel has an outcome in mind, and that is all it will settle for.
It's difficult to know, Ori, though, what the outcome in mind is regarding Lebanon. Only a few days ago, it was declared by senior Israeli officials that Hezbollah had been defeated. As we talk to you, we're still looking at huge plumes of smoke rising above Beirut's southern suburbs. What do you understand is happening here?
I'd like to add that we're also looking at incessant drone attacks on Israel proper for weeks now. On a daily basis, Israeli Air Force jets have been chasing drones that have penetrated Israel's celebrated air defense. The end game is, I think, at least my opinion, is, as I've called it, Israel wants permission to basically do whatever it wants. It wants an official note written by the United Nations allowing it to exercise exclusive discretion. That is the end game. The end game is not a stable Lebanese government. It's not a stable Lebanese state. It's providing Israeli citizens, and this is for the political purposes of the current government, with the sense that only Israel, quote unquote, shapes its destiny. That's the end game.
Only Israel itself shapes its destiny. Very interesting to speak to you as always, Ori. Ori Goldberg there.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.